Hello, I'm JJ from Tifo Football, and we're going to look at how important set pieces are to football games generally, but especially at the Euros, because we've just seen Wales and Switzerland draw 1-1 with 100% of the goals scored from set pieces. Before we do that, it's very important that you could subscribe to The Athletic. It's a lovely place with lots of information on set pieces and other things too. If you go to theathletic.com/Tifo Football, then you can subscribe for all your set pieces and football writing needs with various very talented writers who are much better writing football than I am. But first of all, do that. Then also, we're going to look at set pieces in Wales versus Switzerland. The first goal that Switzerland scored came from a corner, and I would say it's probably maybe an example of poor defending. The ball is good that they score from, but I'll show you what I mean. Now, there's a couple of things with set pieces and why we're talking about them. In the 2018 World Cup, did you know that 42% of goals scored, 42%? That many were scored from set pieces? And there's a few reasons for it. Like, a lot of these teams don't have an awful lot of time to play together. So if you're at club level, week in, week out, you'll have the same defensive partnerships, you'll know what you're doing. These guys come together for maybe a training camp before they go and start playing. So there'll be some people who aren't quite exactly sure, 100% sure what they're meant to be doing at certain times. They'll practice set pieces, and the other thing with set pieces is that you can draw up a playbook, as they are thinking about American football or something. You can have these set plays that you want to execute, and you make people have little dummy runs, people dragging players out of the way to create space for someone else. And you can train or coach these on the training ground so you can execute them in the actual games, and it means you often get chances you wouldn't normally get. As we saw in this game, Switzerland had heaps and heaps of chances to score, didn't take their chances, but did from one of their set pieces. Now, from the corner, Switzerland, it was this side, if I recall correctly, and what we had was Kiefer Moore. So he's a very tall striker. He's 6'5", if we're going to be precise today, and we are. One of the most important parts in the penalty box when defending corners, in my opinion, is this zone here. So you can defend either man marking or zonally, or you can do a mix. It's down to a coach's preference what you want to have. Wales mostly had one player on the far post, as in standing inside the post, so inside here. But for this goal, they did not. They had the right back, Connor Roberts, was marking Mbolo, who is going to score. Now, this guy, Kiefer Moore, huge, tall striker, so you think he's very good at attacking the ball. He is. But defensive set plays, they had him defend this zone. Now, he was stood here for this set piece, which is going to come in. The ball's going to come in, not like that. The ball's going to come in, and it's going to go in like this. Now, were Moore to be here instead of the fullback can attack this zone here. And what you want to do, you're expecting the ball to get whipped in so someone can run across. So say this guy here was going to run across to try and get a near post header. That's what you're scared of from this zone. So Moore's there because if the ball is high into this area, he's the first man, knocks it away, perfect. However, if the ball goes over his head, which it does, then suddenly you've got a bit of a mismatch between quite a tall striker, and he's a strong lad as well, versus a kind of slight fullback. It's a bit of a mismatch. And this goal is just a case of the ball being lifted over the front of this zone, so that's kind of irrelevant, and he heads in. A lot of other little things that aren't really relevant to the goal, but there's a bit like Gareth Bale is over here, and you see just before the cross comes in, this guy runs, which drags Bale with him, and that maybe distracts a couple of defenders thinking that that's going to be where the ball's going to go. But instead, it's lifted over, goes in, that's how they score. So obviously it worked in the training ground, but it's just a mismatch. It's not any fancy set piece or anyone running about to create the space. The ball is lifted in, Mbolo heads it down, goal. That's it. And that's probably an example of poor defending on Wales's part. You could argue that Moore should probably have a smaller player defending this zone and use Moore's height, strength, and ability to contest aerial battles in a more busy area to look after the bigger threats, which are further back in the box. So if Switzerland's goal was perhaps an example of poor defending by Wales, I mean, they can practice how they want to set up whenever they want to in training, but it's good delivery, and that's how they scored. Wales's goal is an example of an attacking set piece, which you can practice again and again and again to get the routine nailed down. And the defending team has the disadvantage of not knowing what that routine is, so it's very hard to defend against, which is why set pieces are so important in international tournaments. You just don't know what you're going to be up against. So Wales's goal also comes from a corner. Then it's quite clever. So Switzerland are more of a man-to-man marking system inside the box, less zonal. They don't have anyone on the posts. They have one guy here who's defending that same sort of this area here that we're talking about, the front post zone. But because there's no one in this area likely to run across that, he knows he can come out. And what happens is that the ball goes short here, and that means that this guy needs to do something. So he wants to come out, but as he comes out, the ball then switches to cross to here, and he's largely lost. Now, this is Joe Morrell. He's a midfielder, plays for Luton Town. He's going to cross the ball in to score the goal. And what happens is you've got Kiefer Moore, who is the big tall lad defending the first goal, and you have this guy here is Joe Rodon. So Rodon is going to be here, and what he does is very important. So you think he's going to move here, but he sort of comes this way and brings this guy a little bit out, and then Moore makes this run across the front. So these three guys here for Switzerland are largely contained by the guys who are amongst them. He makes a run across the back to try and pull this extra one away because he's near Moore, and then Moore makes the run to this front post to score and hit the header like that. And that's entirely a predetermined set piece. So they know that this run is going to be made by Moore. They know the minute this set piece starts, as soon as the ball goes from corner taker to the first man is Joe Allen, and then he shifts it on immediately, because often you'll find in short corners that the ball will go in from there, and then you've got to contest a slightly different starting shape. But instead, it goes here to Morrell. Morrell crosses into this exact area where Moore's going to go, and that's how they score. Something worked in the training ground. It's the only way Wales scored in the game. So these players, you get Dan James, we won't talk about him, but we'll go to Joe Allen, plays for Stoke City. You've got Joe Morrell, plays for Luton Town. And Kiefer Moore plays for Cardiff. These are kind of lower league teams they play in the Championship. And they're up against Swiss players who are high level, some are Champions League, all are top tier level players. That's another thing with set pieces, is that it's a bit of a leveler. So you'll have players who are excellent individually, as part of the team as well, obviously. But when you've got set pieces, the ball's in the air and it's just men colliding in the box. So that's the sort of your leveler there. And to do all your runs you've got going on. Now, another example of a set piece from the tournament is the Czech Republic's goal, the first goal against Scotland. Just happened recently, so I'm still thinking about it a little bit. Now, this is an example of how, so the Czech Republic qualified for the Euros in the first place by scoring a lot of set pieces, corners, free kicks. They've got a lot of tall players, Thomas Souček, people like that. Now, this is an example of Scotland not defending the second phase properly. So corner on the left side, Czech Republic are taking it. Scotland line up mostly kind of man-to-man. It's just basically not a stramash in the box, but they've got everyone covered. So you see there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Czech Republic players, the white dots here, and there's about, this is roughly what Scotland had. Everyone's got a man, making sure they're protecting the goalkeeper so no one can just run across, because they're expecting runs from players to come in. The two at the front post kind of come over here to deal with these two, but the ball goes high over here. I think it's Hanley, might not be, but Hanley knocks the ball away as a clearance. It might even be that the ball is just struck, so it ends up here. Now, that's the first phase done. So this is John McGinn, this is Stuart Armstrong. They're on the edge of the box, not in the box, because if the ball drops to them, these two can go whoosh and get away and counterattack. But that's why they're there. John McGinn is relevant here. So as the ball runs out to about this position here, this guy comes over. McGinn comes over to sort of block him. We'll put him a bit wider actually, just here. Now, the next thing that happens is he sort of tucks in. Stephen O'Donnell is defending the front post now. He was the far post, now he's the front post. He's not sure what to do. He sort of stands here, he kind of tucks back in, and then this player, who sat back to defend against the counter-attack from Scotland, makes this run. And as soon as he makes that run, he needs to be closed down. O'Donnell is slightly too late. It's an example of maybe Scotland taking just... Sometimes they look like they switched off in the set pieces, even though they know that's the big threat. It can just be a millisecond, that's all it takes. O'Donnell's not quite close enough. By the time the ball comes through to him, this player can just chip it over the top, and that's where the header comes in to score. And the way you could have fixed that is by, as soon as this guy runs, you react instantly to go where he's going to go. It's easy to say in hindsight, but that's the only way Czech Republic were scoring in the start of that game, was by making use of their set pieces, and Scotland knew it, and that is the worst part. The second goal was just, we'll forget about that one. And set pieces are not just corners, free kicks, they can even, well, they are often throw-ins. So you may have heard that clubs like Liverpool and I think FC Midtjylland spent a lot of time working with a throw-in coach. It was much derided by certain people, but it's very useful because it is essentially a set play. And we saw one that England did a couple of times in their win over Croatia. Phil Foden got a chance early on because of it, and you can see how it is a set play, because again, the ball is dead, and you position your team in such a way that you can execute a routine that you want to. So this is what England look like. This is their 4-3-3. I'll draw a line so you can see where they are. This is Mings, goes over here. The left-sided centre back comes over, and then the midfield are these guys. And then the forward three are here, because Raheem Sterling, who's normally in this left wing here, comes inside before the throw-in as part of the routine. So I get rid of all these lines so you can see where they were. So what happens is we have our setup like this. Kieran Trippier, the left back, is going to throw it. Before he does, Sterling moves in here to this space, because if you look at all this space here, this is what they know is going to be. This is what we know is going to be the bit that they can attack. It's this bit in the middle here. So if he's here, sure enough, the ball can throw down, but then you've got a right back that's going to be able to block you, and you have to come back or just do something special. If you move in like Sterling does into here, and the ball is flung as it is by Trippier, straight away, he's turned, and he's got the space to run into. Kane has dragged out wide to drag one of the centre-backs with him. So as they're now attacking, Sterling has all this space to the middle to run into, takes the ball, and you've got a back three, and Versalco, the right back, is kind of lost chasing Raheem Sterling. Sterling able to shift it onto Foden as they get closer to the goal. Foden gets onto his left foot, and he bends a shot which comes off the post. And they're quite lucky it doesn't go in. It takes a small deflection, I think. It might take a small deflection. Either way, it's a set piece. So, England only won that game 1-0, wasn't it? It was 1-0, I think, yes. They won it 1-0. Well done to me. And yeah, these set pieces are going to be something we see throughout the tournament, whether it's corner, second phase of a corner, free kick, second phase of free kick, or even now throw-ins. So you'll see a team will set up differently. If they're a 4-3-3, they might look different for their throw-in set pieces. And it's all about dragging players away to create space to then utilise your dead ball and get the ball into space to then create a chance, as England did in that scenario there. Yes, that's what happened. And if you want to know about more of those set pieces, then the best thing you can do, I would say, is subscribe to Tifo IRL, which is this YouTube channel right here, where we do all these sorts of videos, sometimes not on Wales and Switzerland, sometimes not on set pieces, but they're all videos, and you can't have enough videos on the internet.